and see the Lord is good, good to those who hunger after Him. Drink and be filled from the living well, never thirst again. Taste and see, the Lord is good, good to those who hunger after Him. Drink and be filled from the living well, never thirst again, no, never thirst again. Taste and see, the Lord is good, He's been good to me, He's been good to me. Oh yes, you have, Lord, you've been good to me. Hi, I'm Paul Baloche, and welcome to Music Theory Made Easy, part of the Modern Worship series. This particular subject has been on my heart for many years as I've been able to work with bands around the world and to teach classes and to work with musicians. I've realized how important it is to have a common understanding of the language of music. And there are some standard language issues that are understood by musicians around the world that we really need to grasp. All of us need to grasp, even if you're just part of a worship team and just you and your piano player or you and a guitarist, or all the way up to if you ever hope to play in a studio or to record yourself. It's important to understand at least the basic language. Just like if you were learning a foreign language, you start off learning simple words and then you expand into phrases, and then hopefully you get to the point where you're actually fluent in that language and you're communicating. So we're going to spend a lot of time attacking this subject from different angles. We're going to repeat ourselves a lot, but we're going to approach it from a sort of academic on an old low-tech whiteboard and a magic marker, and then we'll come at it with a keyboard and say, let's look at it from this angle, and then I'll approach it with a guitar, and some of you guitarists then can hopefully understand how these concepts relate to the guitar, etc. But again, repetition of what I believe are the fundamentals, the basics that we have to master to be able to communicate in this language. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of our teaching, I want to cut to sort of this live, spontaneous time we had with the band where I was just calling out numbers and they were just following me because they know the language. And I think it might inspire you a little bit, whet your appetite for the subject matter that will follow. So I just pray right now, Lord, help us. We just open our hearts and minds, and I just pray that you help us to be able to grasp these concepts so that we can be better skilled at communicating your heart through this vehicle of music. Amen. Okay, we're going to actually demonstrate some of these chord progressions, because the idea is to get to the point where you not only can play these progressions, but you could actually hear them without playing them. You could be driving in your car and you could hear a song go by and you can just kind of go, like in a key of G. Why don't you just kind of play some diatonic chords? And just let me, okay, that's 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. See, 1 just has this feeling of like, let's all just play a 1 chord, guys. In the key of G. Doesn't matter what key we're in, a 1 chord would feel the same. Right now, the tone center that we're in, the tonal center, is a key of G. So let's just kind of get that rooted into our minds. That's the 1 chord. Now let's play a 4 chord. Let's play a 5 chord. And 5, to our ears, to our Western music ears, always wants to go back to 1. That's why we did like 1, 4. Let's go to 5. We just stay on that. Good night, everybody. Everybody would walk out like with this incomplete feeling, because it's like, man, it's like, get me to the nearest piano so I can play a 1 chord. It's all this tension, but 5 needs to be resolved by a 1. So do you feel that? The idea is to get to the point where you not only hear it, but you kind of feel it. And it doesn't even matter what key you're in. You'll get to the point where when you're listening to the radio, you can kind of hear those changes. Oh, he went to the 1 chord. Now he's going to the 6. Yeah, that was a 6. Okay, now there's a 4. And then there's a 5. And then instead of going back to 1, he went up to a 6. And now he's going to the 4. Let's go back to 1. Do you feel that? Up to 5. 5. Let's go up to 6. Up to 6. Down to the 4. Ba, bum, bum. To the 5. To the 5. And 5 wants to go back to 1. And there's this. As we get started, make sure you go to the website and download the workbook, the companion book that goes with this DVD. It's important to do that right now, so just click pause, go download it, print it out, so that you'll be able to follow along and do some of the exercises in the workbook, etc. Okay, the very first concept is to start thinking in half steps, because a half step is the closest note above or below any given note. And we'll use that a lot. We'll say half step below or half step above. So let's look at all the available notes we have in Western music, and we'll start with C, and then we have C sharp, and then D sharp, E, and then F. There is no E sharp. We'll find out why later. There's an F sharp, and then G, G sharp, and we have A, and we have an A sharp, and then we have a B, and then B, the next note would be C. Now here's something interesting, is not only is a C sharp on a piano a C sharp, but it's also considered a D flat. And a D sharp can be called an E flat. And an F sharp can be considered a G flat, depending upon what key it's in, what scale it's in, which we're going to get to. But I want us to understand this very basic concept of half steps, and then this would be, the A sharp would be a B flat. So some notes share names. There's 2 potential names depending upon what key they're in. And this is called enharmonic, okay? Enharmonic. So a C sharp and a D flat are the same note on a piano or a guitar. D sharp, E flat, they all share the same note, but they could be called something different depending upon what scale they're in. Okay, let's look at this idea of half steps. Let's look at the keyboard here. And this is moving up in half steps, otherwise known as chromatic, moving up a chromatic scale. So between C and C sharp is a half step. Between C and D, that would be considered a whole step. 2 half steps equal a whole step, okay? Now, one of the things we have to consider is when I said C to C sharp, okay, C sharp is sometimes called D flat. Okay, the same note is given 2 names depending upon what scale it's in at the particular time. So all the black keys on a keyboard have 2 different names, potentially, depending upon the scale they're in. It's not a big deal, but it's called enharmonic, E-N, harmonic, and it just means that that particular tone or note can either be a sharp or a flat, depending upon what key it's in. Okay, now we go from half steps to actually constructing a scale. A scale is just a predetermined group of notes that make up a scale, and scales are the foundation of melodies, harmonies, chords, chord progressions. That's the building blocks. That's the common denominator, okay? So let's take this formula of half steps and whole steps, and again, you can read further in the booklet that's available on the website. But I'm gonna, again, this is theory made easy. I'm gonna just try to cut to the chase and say there is a formula of half steps and whole steps that creates a major chord. And it's whole step, half step, and then a whole step, and then whole step, half step. That's the formula. It's a mathematical formula, and that's where the chips fall. So I'm going to just go ahead and draw some lines here and we can get a visual on this. Okay, here's a C right there. We'll start with a C scale. There's a D, and then we have E, and then here's F, and then we have G, and here's our A, and here's our B, and then back to C, which is our octave. Okay, sorry it's not prettier. So there we have, let's write this, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, and that's a major scale using the formula whole step. There's a whole step between C and D, and a whole step between D and E, and a half step between E and F. And then this is a whole step between F and G. And then there's a whole step, and then another half step. So that's the formula. I don't know why. That's just where it landed hundreds of years ago in Western music. So this is the foundation block for every major scale, and that's what we're going to build our chords on. So let's look at the piano for a minute. Okay, starting with the C, we go whole step, half step, and then you go take a whole step, and then it's the same formula again. Whole step, half step. So again, in the key of C, starting on the root, whole step, half step, and then it's a whole step, and then repeat it, whole step, half step. Okay? Now, I want to point something out. Let's say we start on the E, and we use the same formula. Okay, so we go whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Okay, now look at all these. That's where we get key signatures. When you look at a piece of music and you see 4 sharps or 4 flats or 2 sharps, 2 flats, it comes from this. It's just the chips, wherever they fall, that's how they decide that in the key of E, there are 4 sharps. So it's E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, back to E. Okay, and so we have 4 sharps in the key of E. And in the key of D, D, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So in the key of D, there are 2 sharps. So if you look at a piece of sheet music and it has 2 sharps, then you know, oh, we're in the key of D. And these are things that become more familiar as the more you look at music. And you know, the key of F has 1 flat, key of B flat has 2 flats, and so on. All right, I just erased the whole step, half step idea, but you understand how we construct a major scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Now, as we talk about numbers, we throw a lot of numbers around, and sometimes we refer to, when we use numbers, we refer to notes in the scale. At other times, we may refer to chords. We'll say a 1 chord, or a 4 chord, or a 5 chord, or a 6 minor chord. But sometimes we'll refer to individual notes as numbers as well. So just, it's not confusing, you'll understand it. But just so you know, like for example, if I was driving in my car and I was trying to think of the notes to Mary Had a Little Lamb, you know, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, 5, 5. Each of these notes in the scale could be assigned a number. So we might say things like, the D is the 2nd degree of the scale, of a C major scale. Or we could say the 2 note, or there's the 1st note. So just think of it as like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Of course, 8 and 1 are the same, right? The root and the octave, they're the same notes. But just so we understand, if you're thinking of a melody, you're driving in your car and you're like, let's say, da da da, 3 2 1, 2 3 3 3, 4 3 2 1. So we can refer to individual notes as numbers. But what we want to do now is learn how to construct chords. Because one thing, we all know where babies come from, by now I hope. But do we know where chords come from? Have you ever thought about that? Where do chords come from? Do they just fall out of the sky? You know, chords come from major scales. And again, another formula. By taking a root and then we skip a note, and that gives us our third, and then we skip a note and that gives us our fifth. So a lot of times chords are root, third, and fifth. That's the basic triad. That's the building blocks of all chords. They all start with the basic triad. So root, third, and fifth. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw this out. Root, and then we skip one, so we go C, E, G. So we'll go vertical now. C, E, and G. We follow this formula. This is how you build chords. You take the major scale, and then you follow this formula of skipping a note. So we get C, E, and G gives us a C triad. Okay, tri meaning 3. So there's our C major triad. Now we follow the same formula for all the other notes as well. So we go D, and then we skip one and go to F, and skip one and go to A. So D, F, A. If we play that, that actually is a D minor. Again, that's just where the chips fall. So this D, if we're building chords, we have a C major, and now we have a D minor triad, okay? Let's do the same thing again, starting on the third degree of the scale. See how I'm using that language? The third degree of the scale, or the second degree of the scale. Again, sometimes later on I'll say, let's play a C2 chord, meaning a C, but we add the 2 note to it. Again, you'll understand as we use numbers and chords interchangeably and we apply numbers to them. But let's just carry on here. So starting on the third degree of the scale, we go E, and we skip that and go to G, and then we go to B. So E, G, B, here's an E, and there's a G, and here's a B. And if you play that on a piano or a guitar, you're going to get the sound of an E minor chord, okay? So now we have C major, D minor, E minor. Let's do the same thing with F. F, A, C. So we fill that in, and we get an F major chord. Okay, G, B, D, using that same formula. Now you might say, oh, wait a minute, what happened? There's no D here. Well, just know that the scale just keeps repeating itself. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then we have D again, and we have E again, and we have F again. So the scale keeps running on, okay? So we go G, B, and then D. Let me erase these lines so you can see that a little more clear. G, B, D. We just skip that same formula that gives us a G major chord. And then let's do the same thing with A. We go A, C, whoa, there's an E there. So we skipped what we might call the 9. And that could be the 10, but we don't call it that. And then here's the 11. And we'll get into that later, how 4- and 5-part chords are built. But right now we're just constructing triads from the major scale. So A, C, E, I'll fill that, there's a C note, and there's an E, and that gives us A minor. Okay, and then we go B, D, F. And that gives us really a funny chord, really. That's a B diminished triad, okay? B diminished. And then finally C, E, G again. There's our octave. So there's the C chord again. So look, we have constructed chords from the major scale. We started off with just notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, there's the octave. And then using this formula of skipping every other note, we've constructed chords. Now what happens is this is the beginning of the Nashville number system. But going long before Nashville, there was the Roman system. And the Roman system looked like this. We had all the major chords were indicated by a Roman numeral, a capital or a major, and then here was a non-capital. There's a D minor. The 3 chord was indicated by a lowercase 3. And then we have the uppercase 4, uppercase 5. All the major chords, see, were 1, 4, 5. And then here is the 6, and then this was considered diminished. It's considered kind of a minor, a form of minor. And we're going to understand why in a minute. So you'll see this notation a lot, these Roman numerals. However, for most of this video, we're going to move forward into the sort of Nashville, more pop, modern harmony style, and just indicate these chords by standard symbols, standard chord symbols. Like we'll call this like a 1 chord, and this will be a 2 minor, and a 3 minor, or a 4 chord, or a 5 chord, or we'll say 6 minor, and there's a 7. It's not, 7 diminished, and then back to the 1 chord. It seems like in either way, in either form of notation, the 1 chord is kind of a Roman numeral 1. It just kind of works out that way. So this is where we start with the language of, hey, let's play a 1-4-5 chord progression. Or, hey guys, instead of a 1-4-5, let's play a 1-2-5. Or sometimes we'll say a 1-2 minor 5 progression. Let's play a 2 minor to a 5. Let's go up to the 6 minor and then back to 1. And again, understand that sometimes we're referring to chords. Other times we may be referring to, hey guys, why don't you add a 2 to that chord? Meaning not a 2 chord, but go ahead and add the note. If it's a C chord, C, E, G, maybe the arranger or you might say to your band, hey guys, let's add a 2 to that C chord, meaning you're going to go ahead and stick a D in that chord as well, and that will give you sort of a C2 sound. And again, as we give a lot of examples on this DVD, it'll make sense. Okay, Brian, what's a 1-4-5 in the key of A?
A, D, E.
Right on. What's a 6-2-5-1 in the key of G?
E, A, D, G.
Yay! Right on. So is it important to know this stuff? Do you use it? Do you actually use it?
Especially if you don't know the songs and you haven't played too much with the worship leader. He just tell you real quick, okay, the song is going to be like 1-5-6 minor basically, and you just know right away.
Right. Cool, man. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
We're going to start in the key of C. And again, we'll play that scale. Let me just play a C scale. Again, we're familiar with the concept of a scale. And I'll start with 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 8 and 1 are the same. Remember, that's the octave. By the way, this is my friend Don Harris, who's assisting me here on the keyboard. He plays everything, bass, keyboard, guitar. Amazing. So what we want to do is go from playing a scale, 1 note at a time, to actually playing this chord scale after we just walked through how to build these chords. So let's try this together. We'll just start very basic. C chord, and that's 1, and say the numbers out loud as you play it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, now we are cheating a little bit. Normally the 7 is a diminished chord, but to our ears that sounds too much like jazz. So in most pop music, or especially church choruses, modern worship, generally that 7th chord or the diminished chord is replaced or substituted by a 5 chord over a 7 in the bass. Okay, a 5 chord you know, the fraction, the 5 with the fraction, and then the bass note behind that. Let's go through the process again in a different key. Let's take the key of D, and I just wrote the scale out there. So there's D, so we have the D, E, and this actually, using this formula, remember, whole step, half step, whole step, then whole step, half step, using that formula, okay? If we do that, then in the key of D, F is not just an F natural, it's an F sharp. So we have to put a sharp there. That's just where it falls. So D, E, F, G, and then A, B, and then there's a whole step here. Well, from B to C is only a half step, so we have to make it a C sharp. Okay, so that's a C sharp, and then it's whole step, half step. So between C sharp and D is only a half step. Understand? It's a whole step. See, from E to F is only a half step. But we have to follow that formula to construct a major scale. Whole step, half step. So that's why we end up with these two sharps. Okay, an F sharp and a C sharp. So now let's construct our triads from the D major scale. So we're going to go D, skip E, so D, F sharp, and A. D, F sharp, and A gives us a D major chord. Okay? Let's do the same thing with E, starting on the second degree of the scale. Trying to get into the lingo here. Second degree of the scale, E, we skip one and go G, and then to B. So E, G, B, that's the root, the third, and the fifth of the chord. And E, G, B, if you play that on a piano or a guitar, again, it's going to give you an E minor sound. Okay? Let's try the same process, starting on the third degree of the scale, F sharp, A, C sharp. If we play that, that'll give us a F sharp minor sound. Getting a little tight there, but so D, E minor, F sharp minor. So this would be the 1 chord in the key of D. This would be the 2 chord, which is usually minor when it's diatonic, when they all belong to the same key center and they're all derived from the major scale. And then this would be a 3 minor. All right, let's start on the G. G, B, D. That's a 4 chord. A, C sharp, E gives us an A. So now we have our 4 chord and our 5 chord using the same construction method as before. Now let's start on the 6th degree of the scale. 1, 2, 3. Remember, these are the notes. And then back to 1. So we're starting on the 6th degree of the scale in the key of D. Starting on a B, we're going to go B, skip B, D, and then F sharp. Remember, we carry on that scale. So that would give us a B minor. And that's consistent with what we said. Usually the 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor if they're diatonic. And then we have the C sharp diminished, which, as we said, for our purposes, we're going to substitute a 5 chord over a 7 in the bass. Just that note. So in this case, it would be an A chord over a C sharp in the bass. And that's an inversion, and we're going to get to that. So there's our 7, and then back to our root here, which would be D. So again, let's look at the guitar and the piano. So guitarist, go ahead and play this. We're going to play D, and then the 2 chord in the key of D is E minor. The 3 chord, or 3 minor, is an F sharp minor 7, or F sharp minor. The 4 chord would be a G. 5 chord would be an A. 6 chord would be B minor. And then the 5 over 7, or we'll just say 7 for now, would be A over C sharp, back to the D. Isn't that nice? So again, we're in a different key, but the numbers feel the same. Let's play the 1 again. 1, call out the numbers with me, go to the 2, 2, feels the same, here comes a 3 minor, 3, 4, 4, 5, feel the 5, up to the 6, up to the 7 there, and it wants to resolve to the 1. See, the 5 always wants to be resolved. Same with that 7, that half tone right there always wants to be resolved. There's something about the quality of that chord and the quality of that interval, that half step that makes, we want to hear it resolved. So. Hey, desperation guys, turn around for a minute.
Oh, camera! Whoa, put that away.
Okay, ready? You're in the key of G. 6251, key of G, 6251.
E minor, A minor, D, G. But what is that?
You're showing off, man.
Oh, yeah.
You're showing off, Glenn.
Sorry.
Okay, let's do another one for Glenn.
Dumb.
Okay, you're in the key of D.
Stupid.
Glenn, key of D, 145.
D!
G!
You're 4. Hey.
A! One of the concepts in good songwriting is repetition, repetition, repetition. When we have a good idea and we just repeat that, it just locks it into the listener's mind. So at the risk of being redundant, I want to repeat this process one more time. We'll take the key of E and we'll construct our chords from an E major scale. All right? So I've already written out an E major scale here. Actually, I'll just go ahead and put E normally without any accidentals. That the little sharp or flat in front of a note is called an accidental. Okay, interesting name. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and then back to E again. But again, when we're constructing a major scale, we have to follow the formula of whole step, half step. Remember that? So whole step, half step. So from E to F, that's only a half step. And we need a whole step there. So what do we have to do to the F? We need to go up one more half step and make it an F sharp. So we'll put the sharp right before the note here. Okay, then we need another whole step. So F sharp to G is only a half step. So we have to do something to the G. So we'll go up a half step from G, and this will become a G sharp. That way we get whole step, and we have to indicate that here with a sharp. And now G sharp to A is only a half step, so we're good there. So E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and then we connect these with a whole step. From A to B, that's a whole step, so we're okay there. Now we want a whole step, half step. These are called tetrachords, see? They're mixed. And then we unite them with a whole step. But again, go to the booklet and delve further into that. But from B to C is only a half step, and we need a whole step. So we need to do something to the C sharp. We'll take it up a half a step and make the C sharp, make the C a C sharp. And we'll indicate that right here on our staff. And then we need another whole step, but C sharp to D is only a half step, so we have to do something to the D. Raise it up a half step, make it a D sharp. So now we've got F sharp, G sharp, C sharp, D sharp. So on a piano, that's 4 black keys. All right, and then finally D sharp to E is a half step, so we're okay there. Let me just get rid of this for clarity's sake. Now we have our E major scale. Now, typically, you wouldn't see these accidentals there on a piece of sheet music. Typically, they'd have the 4 sharps written out at the beginning of the music, indicating this is in the key of E. And those are the key signatures that we discussed a little bit earlier. This is how we come up with the key signature concept. But now let's build some triads off of this E major scale. So we're going to go E, you know the process now, so follow it. E, we skip that and go to G sharp, we skip that and go to the B. So E, G sharp, and B. Let's go ahead and fill this in. E, G sharp, and B makes a E major chord. Okay? Now, starting on the second degree of the scale, F sharp, A, and C sharp makes a F sharp minor chord. And we just fill that in. We've all seen that, even if you don't play piano or read music, we've all seen these chords on sheet music and go, wow, what are they? Well, those are chords when you see them lined up like that. Now let's do the same formula, G sharp, B, and D sharp. So G sharp, B, and here's D sharp right there. See that? Of course, I had to do the C sharp here. It's kind of getting all, looks like tic-tac-toe, but you get the idea here. F sharp, so the third chord would be a G sharp minor. I mean a G minor, yeah, G sharp minor, sorry. And then our 4 chord would be A. It's like a Canadian chord, A. Okay, and then our 5 chord, constructing it the same way, just skipping every other note, gives us a B. And then our C sharp turns into a C sharp minor. I'm just going to go quickly now. Our D sharp diminished, which we're substituting with a 5/7. And then back to our 1 chord. It's our E. So this is our 1 chord. Right down here, 1 chord, our 2 minor, our 3 minor, our 4, our 5, our 6 minor, and then we'll do like our 5/7 and back to our 1 chord. 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, the 2 chord, the 6 chord, the 3 chord, the 5 chord, back to the 1 chord. That's the language. Now we're starting to speak the language. It's like learning a foreign language. First you learn words at a time, then you learn to construct phrases. And before you know it, as you start using this language of music, you'll be speaking fluent modern harmony.
Yo!
All right, man, you're in the key of E.
Yes.
What's 1, 6, 4, 5?
Let's see. E. What is E? C sharp.
Right?
E, C sharp, A, B.
Cool,
Yes.
cool. All right, you're in the key of G. What's 1, 4, 5?
You're making me sweat.
You make me.
G, C, D.
Okay, you're in the key of A. What's 1, 5, 4?
A, E, D.
All right, so do you use this stuff ever? Do you ever
Absolutely,
communicate
yeah.
this stuff?
If you talk by numbers, when you're talking to the band, you can go, that's a 6 minor there.
Right.
And then it doesn't matter what key you're in. You can, it's totally flexible. So you don't have to go and think different chords.
Right.
You just kind of, on guitar, you can get the shapes and...
Exactly.
So,
cool, man.
I hope this helps.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to look at the key of E, which is good for you guitar players. It's good for us to get this one into our heads. Okay, so we've got the key of E, and I'm going to do slightly different voicings here, but let's go over it together, Don. We'll go key of E, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, now I want to talk about a substitution here. We went 1, 2, and a 3 minor. Sometimes in place of a 3 minor chord, a chord that's a little bit more common is a 1 chord over the 3rd in the bass. See, and that's what it sounds like. So since a 1 chord is 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. So we're playing a 1, but it's an inversion. So we're playing a 1 chord with the 3rd of the chord in the bass. So it ends up sounding like 1, and then here's the 3rd in the bass, and then 4. And you hear that a lot on a walk-up. For example, da 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 to the 4. Very common. Or another example, I'm forgiven, da, 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 to a 1 over 3, 4, to a 5. Very common. Here we're going to go 1 over 3. There's the 4 to the 5. And now let's go 5 back to 1. a lot of times we see these fractions in songbooks. We see C over E or C/G, etc. So I just wanted to clear that up. It's always the chord. You know, the top part of the fraction is basically the right hand of a piano, and then the bottom half is the bass note. So a C over E would be this. And, you know, we're familiar with it. Just adds a lot of emotion. If we were to do a here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. I mean, that just sounds pretty dull compared to here I am to worship. Inversion, C over E. Now we're going to play an F over its third. Say that you're my God. They just add a lot of emotion. Look at the song Offering. You know, if you just did, the sun cannot compare to the glory of your love. You know, it's just kind of average. But if you add some of these inversions, the sun cannot compare, C over E, to the glory of B flat with its third in the bass, glory of your love. And that's an F chord with the fifth in the bass, a fifth of that triad. And then here's an F with the third. There is no shadow in your presence. No mortal man would dare to stand before your throne. See, those inversions just make you sit a little taller and stand up. And again, it's very anthemic. Before the Holy One of Heaven, it's only by your blood, and it's only through your mercy. Lord, I bring an offering of worship to my King. No one on earth deserves the praises that I sing. Jesus, may you receive the honor that you're due. Oh Lord, I bring an offering to you. An offering to you. The sun cannot compare to the glory of your love. There is no shadow in your presence. No mortal man would dare to stand before your throne, before the Holy One of Heaven. It's only by your blood, and it's only through your mercy. Lord, I come. I bring an offering of worship to my King. No one on earth deserves the praises that I sing. Looking at the theory of the song we just heard, it was in the key of F. Okay? We've done C, D, E. Now we're going up another step to the key of F. And I've just written out, these are the notes. These represent the notes of an F scale. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. That's why in a key signature that has one flat, that's the key of F. So if you open up sheet music and you see one flat, it tells you that it's in the key of F, because when you go ahead and do that formula, whole step, half step, etc., what happens is the B has to be flattened, has to go down a half step. So here's our scale, and so we say that's the first degree of the scale, or that's the third degree of the scale, or there's the fifth degree of the scale, or the sixth degree. These are notes we're talking about, okay? Now above, of course, we know the formula now to create chords. So from the F major scale, we created this chord scale, basically is what it is. So we have the one chord is an F, and G minor, A minor is the 3, and B flat is the 4 chord, C is the 5 chord, etc. Now, in that song, in Offering, we have chords like, starts off with F, the sun cannot compare. That's a C over E, to the glory of your love. I'm just going to write out the first few chords. So it's 1 chord, 5 chord. See, the left hand or the top part of the fraction is the name of the chord. That's important to know. The top part of the fraction is the name of the chord. Underneath is the bass note. And so with that, when you see a fraction, that means it's an inversion of the actual chord. So typically, the sun cannot compare would just be F to C to B flat back to F. All right, but what we're doing is putting different bass notes in. Now, E is the 3rd degree of a C triad, if you want C, E, G. So it just, again, it gives it some emotion. So, and then B flat, if you spell a B flat chord, then the 3rd of a B flat chord is a D. So we get F, C over E, B flat over D, F over C. Now, in an F triad, C is the 5th degree of the chord. So here let's spell an F. F, A, C. The 5th degree of an F chord is C. So we're putting the 5th in the bass. So there's 2 types of inversions typically. There's many, but the most common are when you put the 3rd in the bass or when you put the 5th in the bass, the 5th of that chord. Not the 5th, don't think chord, just, again, it's going to make sense as you go from notes to chords, as we keep giving different examples, as we keep attacking this subject from piano, guitar, theory, etc. So just so you understand that, and then on the chorus of the song, we did the walk up. I bring F over A, so that's F with its 3rd in the bass. I bring an offering, B flat of worship, regular C to my King, a regular F, and then they put the A in the bass, so that's an inversion of an F chord. No one on earth, da 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 da. And then finally goes, Jesus, may you receive the honor that's yours. And it goes to a G major. Now, remember we gave that example earlier. Normally a 2 chord in the key of F is a minor, but this is an exception. We did a G major. So we would indicate that on the chord chart just by a G, making sure we don't put the M there, or sometimes you could go through the trouble of saying G major, M-A-G, or sometimes a G M-A, but usually G, M-A-G, M-A-J. I keep using that word functioning, very important word, functioning, because one particular chord will function differently depending on what key it's in. So, for example, the key of C, in this progression that we've been working with, in the key of F, the C chord will function as a 5 chord. In the key of F, a C will function as a 5 chord. Okay? But in the key of C, a C chord will function, its job, its role is a 1 chord. Understand? Okay, let's add one more. In the key of G, which we haven't looked at, but in the key of G, if you write out a G scale and you create your chord scales from that, the C chord will function as a 4 chord. Okay? Because you have G, A, B, C. Okay? So again, it's an important concept to understand that chords will function differently depending upon what key they're in. Okay, let me double clarify what we're talking about here. Having just heard that song, it's in the key of F. And so it's walking down, the sun cannot compare. There's your 5 chord over 7 in the bass. And there's your 1 chord again. Remember, it goes back to 1, 2, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, 7, or in our case, we've been using the 5 over 7 back to 1. Okay? So now we're walking down instead of walking up. 1, 5 over 7. Okay, that's how it's functioning. Okay, it's still it would be written as a C chord over E. So F to a C over E, that would be the inversion, C over E, a C chord over its third in the bass. But it's functioning in the key of F as a 5 chord over 7, okay? Let me give you another example. Let's say we're in the key of C now. Let's just get that in our tonal center. That's 1, 1, 4, 5, 1. Okay, now we're gonna do a C over E. Same chord, but now it's functioning as a 1 chord in the key of C. So there's our inversion with the E in the bass, and then 4 chord, 5 chord, 1 with the third in the bass. Now the C over E, same chord, is functioning as a 1 chord in the key of C. Even though the third is in the bass, it's functioning as a 1 chord. Hope that clears things up. Key of A. Okay,
A.
6, 4, 5, 1.
Key of A.
Key of A.
Are you solid?
Key of A.
6.
6, 4, 5, 1.
F sharp minor.
Yes, sir.
6. What's the next one?
4.
4 would be D.
Right.
And what's the next one?
E. 5.
E.
Okay. Let's try another. How about you're in the key of E flat?
Okay.
Okay. We want to do 2, 4,
F minor,
6,
A flat.
and 1.
F minor, A flat, C minor, E flat.
Whoa. Right on. Okay, you're in the key of A flat. You want to
Okay.
go 1, 6, 2, 5, 1.
A flat, F minor, B flat minor. What was after 2? 5, 1.
5, 1.
E flat, A flat.
Right on. So do you guys actually use this stuff? You ever use this in your band or when you're playing in church and stuff?
We do, absolutely we do. It's usually like in the middle of a song when maybe we're flowing and we want to change kind of things. We'll just hold up, go to the 4, go to the 1, go to the 2 kind of thing. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's super helpful to think of progressions that way rather than memorizing a progression. Because then you can transpose, play in any key.
Yeah.
It also helps in playing by ear. You listen to a song on the radio or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's 1 going to the 5, or But usually the 4 or 5 if it's on the radio.
That's true. That's true.
Touche.
Okay. How about Jared? Do you ever use this stuff, Jared?
Yeah, I do. Like, usually if it's like 1, 5, 6, 4, I just say it's just a 1564. Which is pretty much a sweet song.
Pretty much every hit song. Pretty much every song,
alright,
1564.
1564?
Yeah.
1564?
Yeah.
People ask me, what's your address? I say 1564.
Or like every oldies song is
1564 hit song.
1645 would be any oldies song,
All right, so key of F. What's 1564 in the key of F?
B, F, C, D minor, which is the saddest of all keys.
Which
B
is the
flat.
what?
The
The saddest of all keys.
What is D minor?
D minor, yeah.
Really?
So F, C, D minor, and B flat.
Okay. Okay. What's the chorus on Rescue?
B1 and 2, then to the 5/7. So first inversion of the 5 chord, and then the 2 minor, then to the 4 bar each.
Cool. Can you sing a little bit for us?
Well, there's music playing right now, and
I can't get a reference.
2 songs at once. It's really barbershop.
We like to call it
Frogger.
sonic dissonance.
Looking at the theory of inversions, okay? We've been talking a lot about inversions. Let's look at the theory of it. And this is our F chord. That's just our standard F. F, A, C. That's an F triad, okay? Now, if we turn the chord around and we make it so that the 3rd degree of the scale is in the root, that would be indicated as an F over A. So we have the A in the bass. That's called a first inversion. F over A. And then if we put the fifth in the bass, the fifth of an F chord, F, A, C, right? That's how you spell an F triad, F, A, C. So C would be in the bass, and that's called a second inversion. So that's our root position. Our first inversion is when you put the third in the bass. In this case, it's the A. And a second inversion is when you put the fifth note, okay, the fifth of the chord in the bass. And that's what gives you that inversion. So again, as you see these fractions on your chord charts, listen to the quality that these bass notes give the basic chord. Hey friends, we've been going for a while here, and so our brains are conditioned for one thing. A commercial. Okay, here's a commercial for a book, God Songs, that actually further explains a lot of these concepts that we're talking about. There's a whole chapter in here on rhythm and harmony, big chapter on harmony, melody, and so it'll further cement and supplement a lot of the concepts that we're talking about here. So this was our 30-second commercial. Now we can go back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, Kurt, you're in the key of C.
Okay.
What is a 1, flat 7, 4, 5?
Okay, 1, flat 7, 4, 5. So C's 1, flat 7 is B flat, 4 is F, and 5 is G.
Right on. Okay, let's see, key of D.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 3 minor, 6 minor,
Okay,
5, and 1.
So 1, 3 minor.
So you're in the key of D.
Right.
1, 3 minor.
So D to F sharp minor to what's the next number?
6 minor.
6 minor is the B minor, relative minor.
Good, and then 5 chord would be?
The G, no, the A.
Right, and then the 1 chord?
1 back to D.
Back to D. Very good, man.
Yeah.
You learned well.
I learned,
Thanks,
I tried.
Hey, so do you actually use this as a worship pastor?
I use it all the
leader?
time. Yeah, with my worship band at my church and other things. When I go out, I try to teach the number system if I'm even at other churches. It's very helpful, especially if, it's helpful to me because if I'm using a capo, it's easier for me to think numbers than chords. Because if I'm using the capo on like the 3rd or 5th fret, it's easier for me just to say, okay, for an F, because I get confused. I want to call, if I have the capo on the 3rd fret, I want to call it, D, and it's not. So it's really an F. So
it helps you just think in numbers instead of
it helps me to think numbers with the capo especially.
So if you're in the key of D and all of a sudden you go, now I want to go to E, so what would be the 1, 3 minor 7 in the key of E?
So it'd be 1, 3, so E, then the 3 minor is G sharp minor, 7.
Good, and then the 6 minor would be?
The 6 minor would be the C sharp minor.
Excellent.
Okay, so for Promise Keepers this year we're doing In Christ Alone, and the arrangement is in D flat and it's in D. So I'm capoing on the 7th fret, and I'm playing in D flat, so that's not a great guitar, just to get the right voicings for that Celtic kind of thing. So I took my songbook at the rehearsal and I totally went through and wrote numbers down for everything. Because I can't think in D flat as a guitar player. What guitar player thinks in D flat?
Right.
So if a piano player or somebody's arranging for you and it's in some odd guitar key, the numbers help me.
Right.
I can think numbers even when I can't think in F sharp or something.
Do they ever throw charts at you on PK and with numbers on it?
No, but I will translate them to numbers. Because I can read the numbers, if it's in an odd key, I can read the numbers faster than I can read, again, in some odd guitar key.
Right.
We were doing How Great Is Our God in C sharp, or D flat again. It's like, okay, I couldn't really think well in that key with the capo, because I got the capo on. So, numbers help. Yeah.
Every step of faith, every sacrifice, every prayer that's prayed from an honest heart. You alone deserve every breath of worship. I just want to say how great you are, 'cause it's all for you. Every song of praise is all for you. Every hand that's raised, everything I am, everything I do is all creation sings, and all the earth adores you. From the highest star to the deepest sea, Lord, and it's all for you. Every song of praise is all for you. Every hand that's raised, everything I am, everything I do is all for you, all for you.
There are basically 4 types of triads. That's it. 4 types. There's major, minor, augmented, and diminished. Okay, so we've talked a lot about major, minor triads, but let's take a look at the theory of triads. So right here we have the basic C chord, the root of the chord, we say the 3rd, and then the 5th. So that's, again, we're using the language of theory, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. Okay, C, E, G. Now, that is a major chord. In order to get a minor chord, we can alter the major chord. That's how we get to these other chords. It's the best way to think about it, I think, theoretically. So start with your major chord, and to get to a minor chord, to create a C minor, okay, we need to do one thing, and that is flat the 3rd degree of the chord a half step. So that's a flat right there. So instead of C, E, G, now we're going to do C, E flat, G. And we can all hear the difference, and I'll play them for you in a minute on the piano and the guitar. But C, E, G, and just by lowering the 3rd a half step, that's how you get a minor triad, okay? Always, that's it. That's how you do it. Now let's look at a C augmented, usually indicated by that. Sometimes you'll see a C, A, U, G in old music, but most of the time it's just indicated by a little plus sign. And to get a C augmented chord, you have to sharp or raise the 5th a half step. So this, regardless of what key you're in, if you want an augmented chord, you have to take the basic triad and raise the 5th a half a step. So let's spell that. We have C, E, and then G sharp. And that gives us a C augmented chord. See, we're spelling triads. That's another concept. And in the workbook, the workbook makes sure that you kind of do this exercise. It'll really cement this concept into your head. And then we have the last type of triad is a C diminished. And that's the formula for that is to flat the 3rd and flat the 5th. So that would be C, E flat, and G flat. That's a real dark kind of a sound. But those are the 4 types of triads. And it's important to learn how to spell those. Again, think of them as altering the major triad. I think that's the easiest way to think of these other chords. When you see a C minor, you go, or an F minor, you say, okay, it was an F major and they just lowered the 3rd a half step. If you see an A minor, oh, that was an A major and they lowered the 3rd a half step. So let's take a look at the piano. Again, key of C is a helpful key just for the visual, getting the visual. So we have major is root, third, and fifth. 1, 3, 5, or root third, fifth. Okay? Now, to get a minor chord, we always flatten or lower the third degree of the scale. That's how you get a minor chord. So we're going to go root, third, fifth. So we started with a major. 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. Okay, and a lot of you already know that. Now let's look at the third type, which is augmented, and the formula is 1, 3, sharp 5. Okay, we raise the fifth of the chord, and that gives you an augmented triad. Again, it's rarely used in the kind of music that we play. However, occasionally it's in there, a nice juicy chord. Let's see, the Matt Redman tune. You are God in heaven. There's an augmented chord. So I'll let my words be few. There's that augmented, okay? Okay, and then the fourth type of triad is a diminished triad. And the formula for that is the root, and then we flatten the third or lower the third a half step. And then we also lower the fifth. So we have root, third, and then take the fifth and lower it. Very dark. Like a horror movie or something. And again, when do we use that? Rarely, okay? And that's typically, it functions as a 7 chord. So in the key of C, remember, we have a B diminished and it wants to be resolved up to the C, okay? So typically, a diminished chord is used functioning as a 7 chord, or occasionally, if we're in the key of C, you can use it as like a sharp 4, which is like, and then 4, 5, 1, so it's 1, and then it's kind of juicy. Diminished, it's a sharp 4 diminished, definitely not diatonic, okay? And then 4, 5, 1. Now here's something else I want to do while Don is here, because he can demonstrate on the keyboard, and it's somehow visually easier to see on the keyboard. So let's take a look at the keyboard, and we're going to go up the elevator, up the ladder, okay? So Don, would you play this for us? We'll go root, third, fifth, seventh, and that's a C major 7 chord. Let's try that again. Root, third, fifth, seventh. In fact, if you're home watching this, go ahead and sing those notes. Root, third, fifth. There's your triad. Now we go up the ladder. Seventh. Let's just play that, Don. Just do some 4-part chord for now. Seventh. That's a C major 7. Okay. Let's go to a 2 minor 7 now. In the key of C, that's a what? D minor 7, right? So let's do that. Root, third, fifth, seventh. See that? Let's go to a 3 minor 7 chord. Root, third, fifth, seventh. Okay, let's go to a 4 major 7th chord. In the key of C, that's an F major 7. Let's go to a G 7th chord. That's a dominant 7th. Which is a dominant 7 is not the same as a major 7. That's a dominant 7. That's a whole step down from the root of that chord. So we're going, we went from a G triad, but now we're going up one more note, and which is an F, and that gives us a G7 chord. Okay, let's spend a little bit more time looking at some of these colors. We've been dealing mostly with triads up to this point, and so just by going up the ladder one more time, we're going to get root 3, 5, 7, 4-part chords, okay? Starting on the 2nd degree of the scale, a nice minor 7 chord, and then 3rd degree of the scale. There's an E minor 7, 4th degree of the scale. It's a nice major 7 sound. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa, completely different sound, isn't it? It's pretty harsh, or it's a lot of tension. That's because it's the 5 chord, and the 5 chord always wants to be resolved back to the 1. Now, how did that happen? Well, it's just because of the formula deriving our chords from a major scale and just skipping every other note, going up the ladder a little bit higher. It still functions the same. A C chord is the same as a C major 9. It functions the same. You're just going up a little bit higher, one more note higher, okay? Same with a D minor 7. And now you could add the 9 and the 11. That's really thick, but you could do it. And then the 3 minor 7, usually the 9's not very pleasant, but it's a nice sound. And then here's the 4 chord, just following the same formula. See that? 1, 2, 3, 7, and then we add the 9, very nice. And now the same formula, starting on the 5th degree of the scale. Listen how different this is. 5, 7. And the reason is because it's not a major 7. That's not a major 7. That's called a dominant 7. And it would be notated, in this case, G7, as opposed to a G major 7 or a C major 7, okay? This is dominant 7. Now, we don't always call it dominant. We'll just say G7. And that's the sound you get. And that's just where the chips fall when you derive your chords from a major scale. So the 5 chord is going to have a dominant 7 sound. And then you can add the 9 to it, and it'll be a G9. Not a G add 9, but a G9. Or a G11, which is that sort of James Taylor kind of sound, which wants to be resolved back to 1, okay? Now, let's just explore this major 7 versus dominant 7 thing for a minute. Let's go back to C, and here's a C. There's a major 7. To make that C chord a C7, you know, we've all seen that, C7, that implies that's a dominant 7. So it's not a major 7, we go down at the whole step. So there's the root, there's the octave, we go down a half step. That's a major 7. We go down another half step. That's a dominant 7 kind of sound. Now normally that dominant 7 sound it's functioning as a 5 chord. It wants to be resolved. So C is the 5 chord in what key? C is the 5 chord in the key of F. There's 1. Okay, let's go back to the key of C. We're in the key of C. So there's the G7, and it wants to be resolved back to C. Okay, so the G7 is functioning as a 5 chord. Now there are cases like in blues or jazz or R&B where the dominant 7 chord, a C7, a G7, D7, could be a 1 chord. But that's generally immediately, it's like a blues or jazz thing. So let's say instead of C major 7, we're doing, that's the 1 chord, a 1 dominant 7 to a 4 dominant 7 chord, which would be F7, back to the 1 dominant 7 to the, now this is not diatonic, but you would still think, okay, there's the 4 chord, 1, 4, and then 5, the G7 wants to go back to 1. Let's actually play around a little bit with these 4 and 5 part chords. Remember, it's the same quality, a 1 chord, whether it's a C chord or a C major 9, it functions the same. So, but this gives you choices. So if you're playing a country song, a reggae song, a folk song, then you want to keep to triads pretty much. C, F, C, G, C kind of thing. But if you're going to play a pop song or a light jazz song, then you can go up to more of a 4-part chord, and it's instantly going to give you that kind of a sound or that kind of a quality. So again, you want to be able to make choices. So here we go. We're going to play a lot of major 7s, 4-part chords. We'll just say 1 chord in the key of C. Let's do a 6 minor in the key of C. Let's do a 2 minor 7. Yeah. Let's do a 4/5 or a G. That's really a G11 chord. G11, nothing to be intimidated by. Back to 1. C major 7. Let's do a major 9 now. To A minor 7, which is a 6 minor. Let's go to a 2 minor 7 now. Yeah. Oh, we come into your presence, Lord. Let's play a G11, which is a 4 chord over a 5 bass. Back to the 1 major 9. Oh, I love to be in your presence, Lord. 6 minor. I love to sing out a new song. 2 minor chord. Oh, I lift my voice, I lift my heart. 4/5, G11, yeah. And then instead of 1, let's go up to a 6 minor. Oh, I lift my voice to you. 4 major 7, yeah. Back up to a 6 minor 7, yeah. I lift my voice to you. To a 2 minor. To a G11, yeah, back to 1. Jesus is the bread of life, broken and poured out for us. Because of his great sacrifice, we can know the Father's love. Taste and see, the Lord is good, good to those who hunger after him. Drink and be filled from the living well, never thirst again. Taste and see, the Lord is good, he's been good to me. Jesus, bread of life. Jesus is the bread of life, broken and poured out for us. Because of his great sacrifice, we can know the Father's love. Taste and see, the Lord is good, good to those who hunger after him. Drink and be filled from the living well, never thirst again. No, never thirst again. Taste and see, the Lord is good, he's been good to me. Yes, you have, Lord. Good, so good. Taste and see, the Lord is good, good to those who hunger after him. Drink and be filled from the living
never thirst again. Taste and see, the Lord is good, good to those who hunger after Him. Drink and be filled from the living well, never thirst again, no, never thirst again. Taste and see, the Lord is good, He's been good to me, He's been good to me. Oh yes, you have, Lord, you've been good to me.
This really is like a 1-year class trying to be crammed into an hour and a half or almost 2 hours on this DVD. But that's the beautiful part of a DVD. Keep rewinding, keep reviewing, go to certain sections and keep looking them over and over again. And again, just know that by learning this language, by really becoming fluent with it and being able to communicate with your team members in this language, you're going to see just the level of excellence rise. And you'll be preparing yourself to be able to play with musicians from around the world. Or you can go to Nashville or LA and you'll have what it takes. You'll be able to understand what they're talking about. So I just encourage you to continue to dig deep, continue to dig into this. And what I want to do now is cut to that opening session where we were just playing as a band spontaneously. I want to kind of redo part of that, and then we continued on with some other progressions. But I'm curious to see when you watch that opening session now, if some of the lights don't turn on. When I start naming the numbers, calling out the numbers, and talking in some of these concepts, I think now the lights are going to come on and you're going to be like, yeah, totally, yeah, I get it. I get it. So I just bless you guys, bless you, and just continue to pursue God and continue to pursue excellence for His glory. Okay, we're going to actually demonstrate some of these chord progressions, because the idea is to get to the point where you not only can play these progressions, but you could actually hear them without playing them. You could be driving in your car and you could hear a song go by and you can just kind of go, like in a key of G. Why don't you just kind of play some diatonic chords? And just let me, okay, that's 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. See, 1 just has this feeling of like, let's all just play a 1 chord, guys. In the key of G. Doesn't matter what key we're in, a 1 chord would feel the same. Right now, the tone center that we're in, the tonal center, is a key of G. So let's just kind of get that rooted into our minds. That's the 1 chord. Now let's play a 4 chord. Let's play a 5 chord. And 5, to our ears, to our Western music ears, always wants to go back to 1. That's why we did like 1, 4. Let's go to 5. We just stay on that. Good night, everybody. Everybody would walk out like with this incomplete feeling, you know? Because it's like, man, it's like, get me to the nearest piano so I can play a 1 chord. It's all this tension, but 5 needs to be resolved by a 1. So do you feel that? The idea is to get to the point where you not only hear it, but you kind of feel it. And it doesn't even matter what key you're in. You'll get to the point where when you're listening to the radio, you can kind of hear those changes. Oh, he went to the 1 chord. Now he's going to the 6. Yeah, that was a 6. Okay, now there's a 4. And then there's a 5. And then instead of going back to 1, he went up to a 6. And now he's going to the 4. Let's go back to 1. Do you feel that? Up to 5. 5. Let's go up to 6. Up to 6. Down to the 4. Ba, ba, ba. To the 5. To the 5. And 5 wants to go back to 1. And there's this kind of quality about that. Like, I'm home, man. Home. 1 is home. And the whole point of music, and so you can use this in your songwriting and your arranging, is this, every song kind of starts off kind of your home. Let's just kind of follow me, guys. And a song takes you on a journey. So we're one. Everything's cool because I'm home, but I'm going out on a journey. Go down to 6. Uh-oh. Kind of got lost. Go to the 4. Okay, not so bad. Not so bad. I'm not too far from home. 6 minor. Whoa, uh-oh. Danger ahead. Go to the 2. A little hopeful. Not so bad. Go to the 4. There's 4. Let's go to the 5. There's my home. Here I am. Oh yeah, everything's cool now. I'm back home. Down to the 6. Down, bum, bum. Uh-oh. To the 4. Back to the 6. Feel that 6. Walk down 6, 5, 4, 6. 5, 4, 5, 5. Back to 1. Now here's a neat thing that happens. Sometimes you can substitute a 6 minor chord for a 1 chord, and that kind of takes away the bait. Like if you were fishing, if you're writing a song and they call them hooks, you're, in a sense, you're trying to hook the listener and keep them engaged in the song. So let's do that same thing, but instead of resolving to 1, we go back up to a 6 minor, and it kind of fools the listener in a good way. So let's just kind of do a little bit more of that. 1 chord, go 1. That's our center. Yeah, go down to the 6, down to 6. Yeah, 4, 4. To the 5, to the 5. Gonna go to 1, but instead 6. Oh man, yeah, fooled me. Down to the 4. Now we go to 4. Up to the 5, 5. Go to 6. Uh-oh, whoa. Kind of takes it away again, takes the bait. Back to 4, 4. 5, 5. Now finally back. And there's just sense of like the satisfaction that we're finally home. Everything's cool. And again, that's all music is this kind of balance between tension and then release, a tension and then a repose. And so you kind of there's chords that create more tension, like a 6 minor, a 3 minor, somewhat a flat 7. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But instead of playing the 7 chord, you go down a whole step from the root, and that's a nice tension. So if you're in the key of G, let's just talk about it now. So you're in a G, it's always a whole step down from the root. So we're going G, down to the 6 minor. Let's go to the 4. Now we're going to go to the flat 7 instead of the 5. Feel that? Now back up to the 1. Down to the 6. Boom, boom, boom. Did you hear that go from 8, 7, 6? Now we're going to go to 4. Boom, boom, boom. 5, 5. Now flat 7. Back to 1. So again, these are sounds, these are feelings and qualities of chords that you're used to hearing, but instead of just letting them go by, I want you to be able to recognize them as they're going by and be able to call out the numbers. And again, you can get to the point where you don't even know what key. We could do the same thing in a key of D, key of C, key of F, or E flat, and all those chords would still feel the same way. The 1 chord would feel like, hey, we're home. A 4 chord would feel like we're going somewhere, but things are still cool. The 5 is a little tension. Hey, I need a release here. Back to 1. So one of the things we just did there, a very familiar progression. It kind of goes back to the 50s. It's 1, 6, down, 4, up to 5, 1. Here it go down to the 6, 5, 4 to 5, back to 1. Hear that? So again, that sounds like an old 50s song, but there's a lot of songs that have that same progression. 1, 6, 4, 5. Let's do like I Will Celebrate, key of G. So it'd be like, I will celebrate. 6, sing unto the Lord. 4, sing to the 5 chord. 1 chord, yeah. I will celebrate. Sing unto the Lord. Sing to the Lord. New song. So you're not going boop, boop, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, but it's the same idea. All these progressions are things we're very familiar with, and it's very doable to be able to hear and understand how these chords relate to each other. Let's look at another very common progression. Kind of the progression of the 90s is 1, 5, 6, 4. I can name like at least 30 songs off the top of my head that have that progression. But let's do kind of a alternative kind of feel to it. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the 4. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Go to the 6. Hear that? Your love makes me sing. Grateful heart I give, a thankful prayer I pray. Wild dance I dance before you. I will not forget you. Very common. And now let's go 1, 1, 5, 1, 5, 2, 2 minor to the 4. Very common progression. 5, 2, light the fire again. Very familiar chorus. Oh, I'm calling out, light the fire. Like a love without devotion, like a cloud without the rain, like a heart without emotion, like a wound without the pain. Without you, I am nothing. I am nothing. Without you, only you can make something out of nothing.